بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما وإيمانا وفقها في الدين اللهم لا سهل إلا ما جعلته سهلا وتجعل الحزن إذا شئت سهلا رب العالمين. So today we paused, and in our previous lesson we discussed about the sunan of ablution, and then also the fada'il of ablution, the recommended act of ablution, and also the meritorious act of ablution. So from ablution, Imam Ashmawi continued with the chapter of Ghusl, right? The chapter of Ghusl. So he discussed about the fara'id of Ghusl, the obligatory act of Ghusl, and then also the sunan, and also meritorious act of Ghusl. But before we delve into this topic, I would like us to look at what necessitates Ghusl. What are the things that necessitate Ghusl? What are the things when it occurs to us we have to or we must perform Ghusl? So there are several things that when it occurs, then Ghusl is what? Ghusl is wajib. Okay, so janaba, if we say janaba, it means that janaba could mean someone who has have intercourse with his spouse, right? So after the intercourse, that's janaba. So in this, it means that janaba does not only mean the person who has engaged in an intercourse and also has ejaculated. Just when you have intercourse with your spouse, this suffices. This necessitates Ghusl, right? So engaging in an intercourse, it necessitates Ghusl, whether you've ejaculated or not. Ghusl is wajib. Okay, so here also now we mentioned that intercourse necessitates Ghusl, right? So let's say that a person with his or her spouse engage in let's say a foreplay, okay, and then we're about to have the intercourse, but they did not. Okay, so both the private parts met or has touched each other. So when the private part of the man touches the private part of the woman, this alone necessitates Ghusl. So whether the man has penetrated or not, this necessitates Ghusl, right? So whether the person has penetrated or has had intercourse or not, this necessitates Ghusl. So immediately the two private parts meet or get in contact. What happened? This necessitates Ghusl. So this, as the Prophet said in an authentic hadith, إذا التقى الختانان فقد وجب الغسل. So the circumcised part of both private parts, when they get in touch or when they meet, then Ghusl is what? Ghusl is wajib. So here we mentioned two things here. When both private parts get in touch, it necessitates Ghusl, and also when the act of penetration is done, it also necessitates Ghusl. And also another thing that necessitates Ghusl is post-natal bleeding. After a childbirth, women experience a bleeding after a childbirth. So this is called damun nifas. Okay, this is called damun nifas. So we will explain this in detail. And also there is damul haid, that is menstrual blood. When a woman experiences blood or finish menstruating, then ghusl become what? Wajib on her. Okay? And when a person sleep and then see a dream and wake up and see himself wet, here, what happened? It also necessitates what? Ghusl. So how many things did we mention here? 5. Right? So the first one is what? When the two private parts get in touch or, meet. The second one is intercourse. The third one is? Postnatal bleeding. And then the
fourth one is menstrual blood.
Menstrual blood. And then the fifth one?
Wet dreams.
Wet dream. Yeah. So that's it. So now, let's look at menstruation. Okay, haid. So haid, this is a menstrual blood. Okay, haid, it's a blood that flows from what? From the womb of a woman every month. Okay, so this blood, there are certain rulings on it. So let's explain some of these rulings. Okay, so now when it comes to haid, menstruation, we can categorize women into two categories. Okay, a woman who is a beginner, who has just started seeing a menstrual blood, and someone who has a fixed duration of menses, right? Meaning she has been seeing her blood or her menses for some time now. Okay, so with the beginner, if the beginner who has just started seeing a blood, she don't have a fixed duration of a period, of a menstrual period, right? So in this case, how does she know that this today or my menses starts from this date and then ends on this date, right? She don't know. So she don't have because she's a beginner. She don't have a fixed duration of the menstrual cycle. So what happens here? For her, she's yet to know how many days she will menstruate. But before we move on to that, let's mention that the longest period of menstruation is 15 days, right? 15 or 14 or 13 days according to some opinion. But in our madhab is 15 days. The maximum duration of menstruation is 15 days. Okay, and then also the minimum duration according to some madhab is 3 days. But in our madhab there's no minimum duration of menstruation, right? So it could be just a flow, and then that's it ends. So this is the minimum duration of menstruation. Okay, and then the maximum is 15 days. So now, and then there's no woman who menstruates for 15 days or more than 15 days, right? There's no woman who menstruates for 15 days or more than 15 days. Is that clear? Okay. So now we understand the maximum duration and then the minimum duration of menstruation. So here, let's come back to the beginner in menstruation. So we said there are two types of women when it comes to menstruation: the beginner and a woman who has fixed duration of a menstrual cycle. So a beginner is the one who she has just started seeing a blood and she don't have any fixed duration of a menstrual cycle. So how will she know that my menstrual cycle will span from, let's say, for 7 days, or the duration is 7 days or 8 days or 5 days, right? And then also I forgot to mention that the normal days of most women is 6 to 7 days, right? 6 to 7 days. This. All right. So now, for the beginner, she will wait for She wait for 7 days. All right. She waits for the blood to keep flowing for 7 days. All right. if the blood does not cease, what will she do? She will add another 3 days, right? On top of what? The 7 days. To make it how many days?
10 days.
10 days. All right? So if the blood continue flowing, what will happen here? She will add another what?
3 days.
Another 3 days. To make it how many days? 13 days. If the blood does not stop, if the blood continue flowing, what will happen? Then she will add another what? Another 2 days to make it 15 days. So if the blood does not stop, after the 15 days, she will just take a cleanse, she will just take a ghusl and then pray. You get it? So the 3 days and another 3 days, another 2 days, this is what is known as what? Istihab. Waiting period for what? For a woman who is seeing a blood, right? Or menstruating woman. Is this clear? Is this concept clear?
No.
Sure. Could it be possible that even 15 days after 15 days is possible the person's life will come?
Yeah, it happens, right? But after 15 days, the blood that a woman will see after 15 days is not considered a menstrual blood, right? That blood will be considered what? A discharge. So that discharge is same as what the discharge that men see when they urinate. That is the madhi and then the wadi, right? So what will happen? She will just clean it and then what? And pray, right?
But you will not perform ghusl.
Of course, when it ceases, after 15 days, she will perform ghusl. Even if it's still continue, the flowing, when it continue flowing, she will still take ghusl after the 15 days.
After the 15 days, if she perform the ghusl and she starts praying, that means every salah she will do ghusl.
No, every salah she will perform ablution. So every salah, before every salah, she will clean the blood and perform ablution. She don't have to perform ghusl for every salah, right? For every prayer, she has to clean the blood and then, or the discharge, then perform ablution and pray. She can't use one ablution for 2 prayer. Because of what? Because of the blood. You get it?
She'll be cleaning that place.
Yeah, yes. Every prayer she'll clean the blood, perform ablution and pray. She don't have to perform ghusl, right? And then, but it is recommended that she perform ablution once every day if the blood continue after 15 days. You understand?
I don't understand. Once every day.
Yeah, meaning every morning before Fajr prayer she perform ghusl, before Fajr prayer, and then if it continues, then the following she will not perform ghusl again until the following morning. So ghusl once every day if it continues after 15 days. Is it clear? So this is known as what? Istihaba. Istihaba meaning it's what? A discharge. It's not a menstrual blood. Is that clear? So it's a blood that a woman see before a menstrual blood or after the what? After the fixed duration. Okay, any blood that flows before the period of what? Of the menses or after the fixed period, then it's what? It's considered what? Istihaba, discharge. Is that clear? Let's say that a woman a blood flows for 7 days, right? A blood flows for 7 days, and then there's a blood flows for 7 days, and then this month it flowed for 8 days or 9 days. Okay, so now after the 7 days, because this woman, she's what? She has a fixed duration of what? Of a menstrual cycle, right? So this duration that she has, it's what? How many days? 7 days. And then the blood flowed, or she keeps seeing the blood after what? After the 7th day. So immediately, after the 7th day, any blood that will flow is considered what? Is the have a discharge, not a menstrual blood. You get it? But the old, we mentioned that there are two categories, right? For the beginner, she will keep adding 3 days, then 2 days to make it what? When it's 15 days and it keeps flowing, then she has to what? She has to take a ghusl and then pray. And then she has to perform ablution for every salah. Is that clear? Any question?
You have many, but just continue.
You have many questions, but you don't want to ask. Mashallah. Is this clear?
No.
Okay. So also let's look at the postnatal bleeding. After a childbirth, a woman see what?
With this one, someone who is having someone who knows the fixed date for her menstruation.
Yeah.
Is it possible it could change?
No, it does not change, but sometimes it flows more than the fixed date. So let's say the fixed date is what, 7 days, or the fixed duration is what, 7 days. Okay, sometimes it can flow more than 7 days, right? So after the 7th day, this for what? For a woman who has what? A fixed duration of what? Of a menstrual cycle. So after the 7th day, what will happen? After the 7th day, she has to take a cleansing bath and pray, right? And then the blood that flows after the 7th day is considered what? Discharge, and not what? A menstrual blood. Is that clear? But for a beginner who has not yet, determined her what? A fixed duration, she don't know how many days she sees her blood, right? So she don't know the duration, the span. So in her case, she waits for 7 days, but that's what most women menstruate for what? For this number of days. After the 7th day, if it continues, then she will add 3 days as a waiting period, right? So after the 3 days, making it 10 days, if it still continue flowing, then she will add another 3 days to make it 13 days, right? If it continues, then she will add another 2 days to make it 15 days. After the 15 days, if it continues flowing, then this blood is not considered a menstrual blood anymore. It will be considered what? A discharge. So she has to perform ghusl and then what? And pray. Is that clear? Yes. Any question? So this is the difference between between a beginner and a woman who has what? A fixed duration of menstruation. Is that clear? Yeah. Okay, so now postnatal bleeding. According to our mazhab, it's what? The maximum duration of what? Postnatal bleeding is 40 days. Right? It's 40 days. And then it can also what? Span to what? To 60 days. Right? So meaning, let's say that a woman has given birth for the first time. She don't know how long she bleed. So she bleeded for what? For 40 days. And then so here in her case, she can wait till what? Till the 60th day, right? She keep adding until what? Until 60 days, right? So that's if it continue flowing. So after the first child, she will know how many days she see the blood, right? So the second, after the second child, the second birth or the third birth, then she will know the duration. So let's say after the first birth, she bleeded for 30 days, right? So this is a duration. So after the second birth, if she bleeded more than 30 days, then the days after the 30 days will not be considered what? Postnatal bleeding.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay, so but some women also there's a mistake some women do here, is that because scholars say that the maximum is 60 days, or the normal duration for postnatal bleeding is 40 days. Even if they give birth today and then the blood ceases today, they will still wait for the 40 days, and they don't pray. they don't do anything.
Yes.
This is wrong. Immediately, when some don't bleed, yes, some don't bleed. It's not every woman who bleed after childbirth, right? Some don't bleed. So when you give birth and then you don't bleed, let's see, for the first day, second day, third day, you don't bleed. I mean, you don't. You just have to what? You have to take your ghusl and what?
Okay.
And start praying. Don't wait for any 40 days.
So
Yes.
even if it is the first day.
Yeah, even if it's the first day. There are some they don't bleed. They bleed only at the labor,
Yes.
right? And then that's all. They don't bleed. And some also bleed for some time,
Okay.
right? So immediately the blood sees you what? You take your ghusl and then start praying, right? But if let's say the blood sees on the 10th day and you wait for 40, after 40 days, you have to pay. You have to make up all the prayers that you left. Yes. You get it? So this is also what has to do with what the postnatal bleeding. So now, okay.
So I have a question. You said the maximum is 60 days or 40
Yeah.
days.
40 days, but you can add the waiting period. That's still hard till what 60 days.
Okay.
Okay, but this is rare.
No.
So the waiting period, for the
Menstruation.
menstruation, we add 3, then we add 2.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So how is that for the postnatal?
Postnatal, they did not actually mention how you add,
Okay.
right? But it can't exceed 60 days, right? The maximum, it can't exceed 60 days. So, yeah. And some say also it's 40 days. It can also exceed 40 days.
Okay.
But here that's if the woman bleeds. But if you don't bleed, you have to perform what? Perform ghusl and pray, right? So now let's look at certain things that a person who is having a major impurity cannot do, right? Because all that we mentioned that necessitate ghusl are what? Are major impurities, right? We said that when the private part of what the opposite sex get in touch, it's what? It necessitates ghusl. And also when penetration, right, intercourse, okay, then it's also what necessitates ghusl. And also postnatal bleeding, and also menstrual bleeding, and also wet dreams. So these are the 5 things that when it's okay, it necessitates what ghusl. So when a person is what in these one of these major impurities, there are certain things that the person cannot do, right? So what are these things? What are these things? First of all, the person cannot what? Circumambulate around the Kaaba. That is tawaf. Let's say a person has gone to Hajj and then she starts bleeding. She can perform the other rituals of Hajj, but she can't circumambulate. So she would delay the circumambulation until she gets clean.
Okay.
Right? That's tawaf. She can both male and female. And then also, let's say a man went to Arafah, Umrah, and then he saw a wet dream. So he has janaba.
Yes.
He can't circumambulate until he take his ghusl. Okay. That's tawaf. And secondly, a person cannot pray. Right? When a person is with major impurity, a person cannot pray. And also a person can also not cannot fast, especially a woman experiencing postnatal bleeding, and also a woman also seeing a menstrual blood. She can also pray, and she can also fast. Okay, but of course the person with janaba, let's say either by intercourse or by wet dream, the person can fast, right? The person can start fasting, and then when it's time for imsak, when the time for starting the fast begin, then the person will take ghusl and then pray. So this here we have to differentiate between a person with janaba from the person experiencing a woman seeing a postnatal bleeding, and also a woman with seeing a menstrual blood. Is that clear? So this one. And then also another thing that a person with major impurity cannot do is recitation of the Quran. So this recitation of the Quran, there's also a lot of issues around this. So here, a person with major impurity cannot recite or touch the Quran. Yes. A person with major impurity, that is with janaba or haid or nifas, cannot touch the Quran or recite the Quran. This is according to our madhab of Malik. Is that clear? Okay. But a person with minor impurity, what is minor impurity here?
Urine.
No. Yeah, urine, and also madhi or wadi. Okay, all these things. So now, meaning if we say a person with major impurity, it means a minor impurity. It means that the person with what? A person who don't have a valid ablution. This is what we mean. That's the person with what? Minor impurity. Okay, but a person on a major impurity is what? These 5 things that we mentioned. So a person with minor impurity can recite the Quran, even without a valid ablution. Can recite the Quran, right? And can also touch the Quran, but when necessary, right? Okay, but ethically it's not what? It's frowned upon for a person without a valid ablution to touch the Quran. Do you get the difference? Here we said that a person with major impurity cannot touch the Quran nor recite the Quran. But a person with minor impurity can recite the Quran and then touch the Quran in terms of necessity, right? Okay, but for kids, for children, they can touch the Quran even without ablution. But for adults, they can't touch the Quran without a valid ablution.
Sure. I heard with regards to that one, some scholars are saying people who are normally used to reciting Quran every day, they are permitted to recite the Quran, but those who are not, they shouldn't. That's what I've heard.
Do you get the question?
No, I was even about to ask you that.
Okay, so what do you want to ask? Because I don't get the question.
Okay. So, for instance, we're going to take it like this. We have a lot of Quran books, the Quranic centers.
Yeah.
Where we have many students over there, especially for the girls and boys.
Yeah.
And some of them, they are allowed to read the Quran. They are allowed to, because they have to give their lessons all the time.
Yeah.
So, in that case.
Okay. So here, that's let's say a woman memorizing the Quran. Okay, so we know how it is to memorize the Quran. So when you're memorizing the Quran, you have to what? You have to be glued to the Quran all the time. That you recite, you memorize at your memorizing time, and revise at your revising time. That's how it is, right? When you leave the Quran, let's say you are memorizing the Quran and you leave it you leave a whole day without revising or memorizing. What happened? It is as if you've left the Quran for so long, and then you begin to forget. So with that reason, with this wisdom, scholars have they've said, okay, for women who are memorizing the Quran and they are seeing their menstrual blood or postnatal blood, they should they can touch the Quran, also read the Quran and memorize the Quran. But after they've cleaned themselves, they should be in a clean state, right? Not when after they just finish bleeding, they don't clean themselves and they go and touch the Quran. No, they have to they will clean the blood and also make sure they are clean before they go and touch the Quran. Yeah.
Understand? What of during that process, like maybe the person maybe 5 days, maybe 2 days, can the person still hold the Quran?
2 days after what?
No, maybe during
in the state of bleeding.
Bleeding.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, so that's if the person is, let's say, a student of knowledge who is memorizing the Quran, right? A person who is memorizing the Quran, right? So now, let's say a woman who is, so a woman who is not a woman who is not a student of knowledge, right? She don't normally recite the Quran, okay? And then she's now on a menses. She's seeing a menstrual. She decides to recite the Quran. You understand? For this one, we tell her, sister, it's not your habit of reciting, right? So in your state, you can't watch, you can't recite the Quran. But of course, she can listen to the Quran, right? If she truly wants to listen or maybe engage herself with the Quran, she can listen to it, right? So here, those scholars permitted to touch the Quran or read the Quran when they are on a major impurity are those who have habits of what? Habits of what? Reciting of the Quran, memorizing the Quran and all that. You get it? So I hope you get the difference, right?
Yeah, so my wife, when they used to read, they were also memorizing the Quran.
They used to read
They used to read
the Quran when they are seeing their menstrual blood.
Some of them.
Yeah.
They used to read.
Yeah, so with this, according to that fatwa, that permission, that rukhsa, that they can recite, that's for a student of knowledge. Or let's say a teacher, a Quran teacher, a woman who is a Quran teacher, right? A Quran teacher seeing on her menses. She can't just, she has 50 students, for instance. She can't just say, I can't teach you because I'm seeing my menses, I'm seeing my blood, right? So here, the benefit of her teaching is better than what? Than refraining from what? From teaching or avoiding to teach because of the menstrual blood. You get it?
Yeah, sure.
The reason why she can't touch is what? To venerate the Quran, to show respect and to honor the Quran. It's because it's the words of Allah. You don't touch it unless you are what? On a major impurity, you are pure, right? With a valid ablution. So teaching the students is better what? The benefit of that is what? Is better than what? That veneration. You get it? I hope you understand. So
Sure. I want to ask a big question before you move. Okay. My question is, nowadays we have phone on the, we have Quran in the phone.
okay.
So you don't necessarily have to touch it.
Okay.
So what about someone who is menstruating or seeing her blood? Can the person still use the phone from her?
Okay. You see, this is a very good question. Okay, so people think like because it's a phone, it's application on the phone. So even a menstrual, as a woman,